Every year that I attend college, the yearly outstanding balance due only gets higher and higher. As not only for me, the average American also attending college sees a 3% yearly increase in tuition. Tuition for colleges and universities is on the rise in America. Like a wildfire, it is quickly spreading. I've been working on completing my post high school education for some time now, a little longer than usual. I've had to spread my educational path a little longer than expected as I continue to strive for my secondary education. Now, I've noticed that the cost to pay for this education only increases every time I apply. Being a working middle class man, I've had to work for most of what I have, which means getting loans, borrowing money, working a little overtime shifts because I have to pay for my school. As I complete my further research, I've come to realize that the issue is not only for me, but for many other fellow Americans. As most of you all here are students currently enrolled in a 4 year university, we are all affected by this statistic. The average American has to turn to other means of funding this education by either borrowing money, reducing their credit hours so they can enroll, or simply dropping out to actually complete school. Until we stand up and address this problem, this broken system will only continue to pile up larger and larger bills and larger money due. I would like to persuade my audience that we can work together, or at least bring up the idea to slow or stop the rate of college tuition increases. The problem we are facing, according to a study from 1991 to 2006, for every $100 increase in tuition, there is a 0.5% decline in enrollment. This is a direct correlation between increased tuition, and decreased hours that students turn to loans to actually try to stay afloat. As a result, in a 5% increase to tuition leads, the loss is 51 enrolled students to that school and a total balance of $2,225. So, good amount of money. In a survey conducted, 569 college dropout students, 55% of these students was due to the inability to fund their schooling. Now, another issue is loans are so easy to get. Since federal loans are hardly denied and easy to attain, students can apply freely at the click of a mouse. Don't really have to do much research, don't really have to ask a lot of questions, sign here, sign there, you get your loan approved. Now, knowing this, universities can adjust their rates freely without any sort of repercussion by the federal government. Extra tuition, extra fees, and whatnot. Also, there's recently been a cut in state funding for public schools. As per CNBC, states have begun decreasing the funding for the states, which now has caused schools to adjust tuition rates and fees. States have allocated funding to other means, pressuring schools to meet financial means in other ways, which is these fees. Now, the solution, according to Forbes.com, they've suggested using a two-sided approach to this growing dilemma. Applying a loan cap as to how much a student can borrow. This limits the amount a student can actually borrow from a private bank and maybe causes that student to think a little bit more financially before requesting loans. Another option is federally mandating a tuition cap. This is an idea brought up to both private and public schools. Now, a cap would not allow schools to get away with unnecessary fees and outages for these simple cases. An issue that I faced was during the COVID crisis, during COVID, last year's 2020 COVID lockdown. We noticed that as I was attending my RN program, a lot of us were getting charged in-school fees. We were charged fees for being in class, on-campus amenities, when in reality the school was shut down for COVID. Everything was online. So the students brought up a petition in which there was no point in us having unnecessary fees if we weren't even using school amenities. Nonetheless, this is just a small example of how schools can tweak and adjust to meet payments and bills due. Another option is educating students on the outcome, teaching students on transferring 2 year colleges to a 4 year college to save money on funding. Now, this is not a common practice. When I went to high school, I don't ever recall the high school counselor or high school teachers suggesting going to the community college. It was there, we knew of it, but it wasn't really advocated for. Now, advocating for a 2 year college over a 4 year college saves plenty of money to at least start off students with their basic courses. And lastly, applying for further scholarships, grants, and federal program. This will lead to a actual reduction in the tuition rates, but as well as the loan borrowing. So scholarships and grants are available to people. It's just a matter of education and applying. Now, this is obvious an issue that many of us face today. Tuition will only continue to rise if we don't take control. Loans will continue to increase, and the college dropout rate may potentially get larger. As this issue continues, we have several options we can take to decrease the impact, using our two-sided approach method and educating our population attending school is definitely options. We must act together as students who want to progress post-high school education. The price of tuition will only continue if we do not come together and act now. For we never know, the price of tuition may eventually reach the price of a house by the time the next generation gets to college. Thank you guys.